Welcome to the Karen Kenney Show.
Hey, you guys, welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. I'm so happy to be here with you today. And today I want to talk about hope. Hope, hope. And one of the reasons why I want to talk about hope is that I think hope sometimes gets a bad rap. So it's not like I have to be here like in defense of hope, but I want to just talk about hope and look at it through a couple of different lenses. I always think of so many things as being like a kaleidoscope, and we tend to like lock things into being a particular way or thinking about something from a particular way. And one of the things I love to do is to just kind of like, you know, when a dog hears a funny sound, he like tilts his head sideways. Sometimes just like tilting your head sideways just a touch, it can give you a totally different perspective. Just kind of shifting that kaleidoscope, just one tiny turn, and all of a sudden you have a totally different picture. The other reason why I want to talk about hope today is because I think that there is so much going on in the world that is so fucking insane and so just overwhelming and scary and maddening and fear. Like there's so much fear that is generated in this kind of human existence realm. You know what I mean? And there's so much that happens that feels like it is out of our control. There's so much that we feel like we do not control in the outer world. And when we start to get overwhelmed by that and we're getting bombarded through the news, the 24-hour, like 24/7, like news cycle, and the endless bombardment of social media and the internet and the devices and like all that stuff. When we get constantly reminded of how out of control a lot of things feel, we can start to feel hopeless. And I know that there are people out there who I've heard say, both near and far to me, who have said things that they were feeling hopeless and helpless. So this for me is like just something that's I think important to talk about and I want to dive into. And let's start off by, and I got some notes here in front of me, because I always like to do my due diligence. I am a lover of words. I love to know where a word originated from, what it means, and look at it from a couple of different angles, right? So the word hope, if we look at it as a noun, there's a couple of different meanings for it. Number one, it's a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. Okay. It's also, as a noun, grounds for believing that something good may happen. Okay. And here's another one. This one might be from Merriam-Webster's dictionary. And it says, hope is an optimistic state of mind, not just a feeling. So one calls it a feeling. This is calling it an optimistic state of mind that is based on an expectation of positive outcomes with respect to events and circumstances in one's own life or the world at large. Now, Merriam-Webster as a verb defines hope this way, quote, to expect with confidence, end quote, or, quote, to cherish a desire with anticipation. And I thought these were fabulous. I'm a wicked hopeful. I'm kind of an annoyingly hopeful person. And I know that some people can consider hope to be almost be like a little like Pollyanna-ish, but I want to look at it this way. So while some of us see hope, like let's talk about this, because not everybody's like me, not everybody sees hope as a positive thing. So while some of us see hope as a positive thing, for me, it's like a glimmer it's like a glimmer. It's a guide. It's a guiding light when we're just in it. You know what I mean? Like when things just feel like all hope is lost. You know, I often use this as an example. If you were a kid in my generation, there was a show called The Banana Splits. And on The Banana Splits, I reference this character a lot. Excuse me. And he was on Gulliver's Travels, and he was just like this little negative Nelly guy. And anytime something happened, he would just mutter the words, we'll never make it, we're doomed, right? And he was so not hopeful or positive, like at all. And so while some of us see hope as a good thing, as a guiding light, as something positive to get us through like dark, dark times, other people think of hope as something negative. Like they'll say, don't get your hopes up or you're just going to get disappointed. or it feels almost like, you know, that saying, like having an albatross around your neck, that hope kind of keeps us attached to expectations or to dreams of like better or greater times. It's like this thing where you just hope and hope and hope, but nothing actually happens. And you just end up defeated and disappointed and, you know, getting discouraged and all that stuff. And when we think about this relationship to our relationship, I should say to the word hope, I started thinking about that old story, which is really interesting. So you guys have all probably heard the phrase, you're going to open Pandora's box. And this goes back to Greek mythology. And what's really interesting is that Pandora actually wasn't given a box to open. She was given a jar. I don't know why I find that so funny. Pandora's jar. I guess it doesn't have the same, like, you know, same oomph to it. Like, so you open Pandora's box. Okay, so back in Greek mythology, there's Pandora, and Pandora is supposedly like the first woman on earth. So, first woman on earth, gods give her this jar, and they tell her, don't open it. Okay, we already know how that's going to end. Because if she was curious, as curious as I am, and it's like, here's this first woman on earth, here's a jar, don't open it. They told her, keep it shut. But of course, her curiosity wins out. She opens it out, and upon opening the jar, all of a sudden she releases like every evil, every malady, like all these awful, all the miseries of the world, like come pouring out, come flying out like a swarm of bees. It's like, shoo, right? If you've ever seen like a horror movie where like it's something is like a mist or a fog or whatever, and you open it up and it's like, psst, it just goes out. So everything from like sorrow to pain to envy to greed to sickness, death, disease, hatred, strife, famine, like whatever, all the bad shit like just comes pouring out. And then of course Pandora's like, oh my God, oh shit. And she tries to like shut the jar. And when she quickly closes the jar slash box, right, there's one thing that stayed trapped inside, and that was hope. So think about that. Inside the jar. Now, I don't know what the gods were thinking. They obviously have a wicked funny sense of humor, but inside, alongside all of these awful things, was also hope. So hope stays trapped inside with all the other like maladies of the human world, right? So everything else escapes, but hope stays in the box. Now, to some of us, we are like, oh my God, thank God she held on to hope. She has this like divine gift that is still in her power and in her presence and in her possession that she can use, right? This hope that humankind, right, has retained amidst all the other bad things, all the adversities in the world, all the tragedies of the world, all the horrors and all the suffering. We still have hope. While other people look at it as like, it's kind of like hope is just kind of like lame, lame and wishful thinking. Some people even see it like we're being taunted. Like, it's like, oh yeah, we have hope. Like we have hope all these good things are going to happen, but they never happen. You know what I mean? So a lot of people look at it in a very negative way. Me personally, I'm a wicked big fan of hope, and we're going to get into all that. But of course, I looked up hope, and I always like to get a couple of different perspectives on this. And there's a wonderful guy, a psychologist. I mean, I assume he's wonderful in person. He seemed wonderful on video, but he's a psychologist, and his name is, and I want to say this correctly, Dr. Dan Tomasulo. And he teaches positive psychology at Columbia. He also speaks on the science of learned hopefulness. And of course, that just like grabbed me, like that title, the science of learned hopefulness. And he says this, he says, hope is the only positive emotion that requires negativity or uncertainty in order for it to be activated. Let me say that again. Hope is the only positive emotion that requires negativity or uncertainty to be activated. And he went on to make a funny, and he said, there's no need for hope if everything is hunky-dory, right? And it's true. But the thing about hope is that it's flip of the coin, right? People who like get their hopes up and then get disappointed, or things don't go their way, or things look like they do in the world right now, where like everything's kind of going down and there's all this negativity and all this division and all this murder and hatred and schools, mass shootings and school shootings and like famine and genocide and like all these things that are happening. It's what we can lose our bit of hope, right? We can lose that bit of sunshine in our heart. We can lose that, what we call it, a glimmer of hope, right? We lose that glimmer, that sparkly little divine thing that like Pandora that she retained in the box. And to me, I'm like, or in the jar, we all have this, I think, in our heart. But when we start to lose our belief in hope, if we don't activate our hope and use it, and we're going to talk about using hope in a minute, then hopelessness can often lead to despair. And if you take a look around right now, just like I was saying, we could all use a little more hope. So I want us to consider thinking of looking at hope like this. And this is kind of how I look at hope. I think of hope as many things, not just one thing, right? So if we go back to the definitions here, it's a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. That's one way to look at it. But I look at hope as a feeling. I look at it as a positive motion, number one. Number two, I also look at hope as a mindset, as a particular outlook, as a particular thought system. So to me, it's not just a feeling, it's also a mindset. For me, hope is also a call to action. It's an inspiration. It's something that lights a little fire under my ass. You know what I mean? And hope is also, to me, a practice. It's not some ethereal thing out there. It's something that I can practice in here. And we know, that, to me, it's kind of like that old saying in the Bible, right? Faith without works is dead. To me, hope without works is dead. I don't think of hope as just something that we get to like sit around and like, oh, I hope we have a more peaceful world. I hope we have a less violent world. It's like, no, you know how we get outer peace? You know how we get world peace is individuals inside are working on their own inner peace. Inner peace amongst all the individuals leads to outer peace. What I have found is that people who have more of an experience of inner peace, what they start to do is they start to have a different experience of themselves. They start to have a different experience where they can start to believe in themselves and trust themselves. And when you move through the world from that place where you kind of have belief in yourself and you start to trust yourself and you trust your inner teacher, you trust that wise advocate or Holy Spirit or the still inner voice or the divine intelligence that moves through you, right? You start to show up differently in the world. And I find that people who are moving through the world with inner peace, they tend to create outer peace around them. And just imagine if more people, right, stayed in that place of hopefulness. They stayed in that place of believing that they could actually make a difference and that they do something about it. So to me, hope isn't passive. Hope is not a passive thing. It's not like this naive Pollyanna-ish, like I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope for the best. No, it's not. It's a skill. Hope is actually a skill. And it is a skill that we can practice. To me, again, it's a mindset that inspires action. And it's like, it's not just a belief. So I guess that's number 5. To me, it's also a belief. But it's a belief in the possibility of things getting better. It's a belief in the possibility of change and transformation. Hope to me is a belief in the possibility for a better future. And it comes along with, it has a plan on how to do it, on how to get there. It's not just like pie in the sky, cross my fingers, hope it all works out. No, it's like I'm going to take action to try to, right, have a plan. Now, A Course in Miracles says a healed mind does not plan. And that doesn't mean that we don't have a plan. It's that we don't make our plan all on our own. Meaning we get quiet, we slow down, we have some time of introspection, some self-reflection, some self-awareness. We get wicked clear on our motivations, on our intentions, on what's driving the bus within us. We ask, we call upon the more intelligent parts of ourselves, whether you call that your highest self, your higher power, your good self, your good thinking, your common, whatever you want to call it, Holy Spirit, right? Again, the quiet voice within, the inner teacher. We make a plan from that place on how we would like to create whatever it is, this more peaceful world, this more kind, compassionate, loving, united states of America, perhaps, right? Not this divisive. We hold on to a hope and a vision and a belief that there is a possibility for things to look different, but we don't just sit on our ass and expect the rest of the world to figure it out. We try to come up, at least on an individual level, a plan on how to get there. So for me, hope takes us from having a problem and it swings open the door to possibility. Because as long as you are stuck in hopelessness and as long as you are stuck in despair, you are powerless. When you throw your hands up or shove your head in the sand or just say, you tap out and say, I'm out. I'm not saying don't take breaks. There are a lot of people in this world, especially Black women, who have been doing a lot of the heavy lifting for a really long time. And so a lot of us who have been maybe sitting on the sidelines or saying shit like, oh, well, God's just going to handle it all. Like, hopes, thoughts and prayers and namaste the day away, right? It's like, no, some of us have to step up and actually get involved, have a little bit more of a plan. You know what I'm saying? And so much of this, when we're moving from that place of problem, the suffering, the division, the hatred, all that stuff, to possibility, to me, that's the realm of spirit. That's moving from fear to love. So to me, in some ways, hope is miraculous because as A Course in Miracles says, all that a miracle is a shift in our perception, a shift in our mind from fear to love. Now, let me say this. If you're in the kind of quote unquote spiritual realm, the spiritual quote unquote world, or you have a spiritual practice or you have spiritual friends or whatever, no doubt, and especially if you are familiar with the Course in Miracles at all, you have heard that, right? A miracle is a shift in perception from fear to love. And it's so easy to quote it. It's so easy to say the words and to also like hear it, but not hear it. Like you hear the tones and the fluctuations of sound making like coherent words, but you're not receiving it. You're not getting it. You're not feeling it. And you're not downloading how powerful that actually is. When you shift your mind from fear to love, when there is a shift in perspective in your mind, it can heal separation. It can heal division. It can heal wars. It can create forgiveness. It is a soothing balm to the soul when you are willing to shift how you have been perceiving something, yourself, a situation, or somebody else. It is a powerful, powerful thing because love, that's the state where love happens in the realm of curiosity and creativity and possibility. But when we stay attached to the problem, the suffering, the division, the hopelessness, the helplessness, we're screwed. We're fucked, right? Like nothing's going to change. What do they always say? Nothing changes if nothing changes, right? So if we stay open to hope, if we stay open to the idea, the belief in the practice, right? The feeling of hope, anything that is felt, right? Thought about, felt, spoken with repetition, it literally creates neural networks in our brain that allows that feeling, good or bad, in this case with hope, good, right? So Rick Hansen says it like this: neurons in your brain that fire together, wire together. Another way of saying this is you practice an emotional state, how you feel, right? You practice an emotional state until it becomes a neural trait. And for example, that's why people who get angry really easily, what that tells me is they've practiced getting angry 1,000 times before that. People who feel like they are infinitely patient, they have practiced patience 1,000 times before that, right? We practice an emotional state until it becomes a neural trait. Neurons that fire together wire together. To me, if I keep my mind attuned to hope, to love, right, to all of that stuff, when I shift out of all that fear state, that's what despair and hopelessness and hatred and division and separation and all that stuff is. When I shift out of that, the world opens up. And Dr. Tomasulo said this. I want to share this because I thought it was so great. He says, when I talk about learned hopefulness, we're trying to cultivate a perspective that optimizes the belief that we can positively influence the future. Think about that, he says. It's about agency and positivity. And this is what I think is so powerful about this sentence. He says, we're trying to cultivate a perspective that optimizes the belief that we can, those two words, that we can positively influence the future, meaning I'm not at the mercy of what the world out there is doing. I'm not saying it doesn't feel like we are, and that sometimes we are. Sometimes somebody, we're just sitting at a light and somebody, hits us from behind. We get boom, we got a little car accident from behind. Sometimes there are things that are just kind of like happening. I'm not spiritually bypassing suffering, atrocities, awful things. I'm just saying we hold on to the belief, though, that we can positively influence the future. And what's happening right now, I think, is that a lot of people are losing their belief that they can actually positively influence the future and change how things are going, change the direction that the world and this country is going in. And so it's really important that we understand how we can influence our own beliefs and train our mind. And this is what meditation is all about in some ways. This is what A Course in Miracles is all about. It's about mind training. It's training our mind to think along the thoughts of love, a thought system of love instead of a thought system of fear. And here's what we know. Our perception. So in A Course in Miracles, it says perception, right? And I'm tapping my forehead. What we think of and hold to be true in our mind, right? Perception makes projection. It's what we put out onto the world. So what we think in our mind in here is often what we experience out there. Our perception informs our experience. It informs our knowledge. Our knowledge, right, often informs what we think, informs what we believe. So if we want to change our beliefs, like, oh my God, we'll never make it, we're doomed, we're fucked, it's all a mess. And it is. Look, I get it. It looks like a shit show out there. Like, I get it. But if we want to change our beliefs about what's possible, we have to shift our perceptions. That's the way that we get it done. And there's a quote that was made famous by Wayne Dyer, if you're a Wayne Dyer fan, right? The writer, the author, the thinker, the speaker. He's no longer with us. But Wayne had a thing where he would say, if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And it gets attributed to him. Yes, he said it in his books, but it's not his original quote. That came from the founder of quantum physics. He was a German physicist named Max Planck. It was popularized by Wayne, but Max Planck, basically paraphrased, says, if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So it kind of also goes along with that saying, right? People a lot of times say, well, I'll believe it when I see it. And people, we often say, like, you'll see it. We flip that around. We say, you'll see it when you first believe it. So a shift in perception in your mind swings open the door, right, to possibilities. And the most significant change, I often say, everybody wants to change the world out there. And I always say the way that you change the world out there is by changing the world first in here. And I'm tapping my head and my heart, right? Your body, like in here, the inner work is what leads to external changes. And I often say, like, if you want to see a less violent world, right? We just had this kid in Nashua, like 23 years old or something, 22, 23 years old, and he breaks into, an event space. So there's an event space in a restaurant, like a country club. And he just like he shoots people. And you're like, what the fuck? We see it all over the place. We see it in, children, in schools, in churches, the insanity, right? We just saw Charlie Kirk get murdered. That's a whole other show for another day. Um, but if we want to see a less violent world, a world with no more violence or less violence, we must do the work on an individual level to eradicate all the violence that we have within ourselves, in our own hearts, in our own minds, in our own DNA, like the way, and I mean, I don't mean DNA like actual DNA, but like, what we walk around, the stories we carry, the beliefs we carry, right? And that's the thing is people are like, well, there's nothing we can do. I said, no, 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 no. The first thing you do, I always say, you can't complain about shit blowing around the neighborhood. People are like, oh, there's stuff all over the street and da, da, da. Yeah, you might want to check your own backyard because that's where the stuff is coming from, right? Clean up your own trash barrels that you didn't roll back in. You know what I'm saying? So we all have our own little garden to tend to. And that's where we start doing the work. All that a family is it's made up of individuals. All that a neighborhood is it's made up of a bunch of different individuals. All that a community is it's made up of a bunch of different individuals. All that a state is, like it's a city, a state, you can keep going out, a company, a corporation, it's just made up of individuals. A country, made up of individuals. A government. So the way that we create mass change on a global scale, wanting to see a more quote unquote peaceful world or less violent world, one at a time. We got to get our hearts right. We got to get our minds right. And I think holding on to hope and actually believing that we have the possibility to create a better future, along with a plan on how to do it, and then actually taking some action. So we've got to understand ourselves. We got to understand the way that we look, like the lenses that we use to like look through the world, look at ourselves, each other, and whatever. And that's how we change. And I've said it before, you've heard me say it. Why are there still, in the richest country in the world, why are there still children dying of starvation? Why are there still kids going hungry at the end of the day? Why are there kids who don't have like resources and things that they need? Because enough people are okay with it. Enough people are voting against it. Enough people have decided like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with kids getting killed when they go to school. I'm okay. Like, look at our gun laws. Look at all that stuff. It's because enough people are okay with having some gun deaths, right? Because we just think like, oh yeah, like we don't want to give up our guns. It's like nobody's asking you to give up the guns. We're asking for more like effective leadership and like rules and laws around getting guns and all that stuff. But that, again, another conversation for another day. So when we change, right, this is the heart of the human experience, is our perception shapes our reality. And when we understand the power of our own perspective, the power of our own subconscious beliefs, when we start to get that, when we start to change the way that we look at things, the things that we are viewing, witnessing, observing, those things will start to change. So from this, right, we look at things differently. This is how transformation happens. This is how change happens. This is where we get hope, because we actually start to see. Again, it's not this Pollyanna-ish crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. It's like, well, what am I going to do about this vision of hope that I have? In A Course in Miracles, it's like lesson 33. It says there's another way of looking at the world. There is another way of looking at the world. We all know, we've talked about it on this show. If you're a regular listener of the show, the brain has its own negativity bias. It gets up in the morning. It's the brain's job is to keep you safe. So it's always going to be looking for threats. It's going to be looking for things that are scary, things that are wrong, things that are bad. It's always trying to judge its environment for safety, right? It's not sitting around like trying to see the good in everybody. I've trained my brain. I think I was kind of like that anyways as a kid. But part of being a Course in Miracles student for like over 30 years is that I have trained my mind in a very specific way, right? So I did last year a 30-day challenge, and I'm going to seriously consider bringing it back either sometime this year or start off the year within 2026. But I did a challenge called The Good, the Beautiful, and the Holy. And there's, speaking of A Course in Miracles, there's another way of looking at the world, right? There's another line in A Course in Miracles that says, child of God. And I just consider us all God's kids. Whether you believe in God or not, think of yourself as a child of the universe or a child of love. I don't use your own happy word. But it says, child of God, you were created to create the good, the beautiful, and the holy. Do not forget this. Child of God, you were created to create the good, the beautiful, and the holy. Do not forget this. And my challenge was all about taking 30 days to help us to train our mind over the course of 30 days to look inside you. But I started with the outside world because for a lot of people, it's easier to do it to the outside, to look for the good, to look for the beautiful, to look for the holy. In this case, holy doesn't necessarily mean religious. It doesn't mean it couldn't be beautiful things. Like maybe you went to church service and you're like, oh, that felt like a holy experience. Or maybe you had a deep talk with a friend and there was reconciliation or forgiveness and that felt like a holy moment or a holy instant or whatever. But holy could mean like I broaden the scope, because I know that word for some people can be like, man, that makes me a little uncomfy, right? But so the challenge was all about taking 30 days, right, to really look around and observe the good, the beautiful, and the holy. And it trained our minds to look at what already exists in the world, right? And then we had to shift it to acknowledging those things that lived within us that were good, beautiful, and holy. People find that part like way harder. And again, that's a conversation for another day. But here's what I'm trying to say. When we're looking for the good, the beautiful, and the holy, we have so much more hope. You know, and I think about, and I've talked about it many times, because you all know I'm a huge fan of Mr. Rogers, right? When Mr. Rogers talks about how when bad or scary things happen in the world, this is a famous thing. I mean, I know it's not the first time you're hearing it from me, but meaning you've heard it from other places. And his mom would tell him, like, when the scary things happened, she'd be like, Freddie, look for the helpers. Look for the people who are helping. That to me is like good, beautiful, and holy. That's like looking for the hopeful, looking for the places where people aren't just flapping their gums or crossing their fingers. They're doing something about the tragedy, the trauma, the travesty, like they're boots on the ground. They're getting their hands dirty. They're like diving in. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we don't have to just accept the way that things are out there, the way that things, quote unquote, appear to be in this small reality, as we say, in this very human kind of, you know, drama, this play that is being acted out on the cosmic level, right? And in A Course in Miracles, we call it like a dream. And in yoga, we call it Maya, the illusion, this illusion of separation, right? So we don't just have to accept the way that things are. We can train our mind and we can challenge ourselves to try to see things in a new way. And to not just try to see things in a new way, but to actually see things in a new way. Because hope is teachable. Hope is what I like to say, it's learnable, right? We can learn to be more hopeful. And there's a quote that I want to share. Again, it comes from, I always want to make sure I say his name, Dr. Thomas Sulo. He said this, I love this. He says, learned hopefulness cultivates perspectives, optimizing the belief that we can positively influence the future. Learned hopefulness, I'm going to say it again. Learned hopefulness cultivates perspectives, optimizing the belief that we can positively influence the future. And I can say this as somebody who works with the subconscious mind a lot with myself and with my clients and with members of the nest, is that when you hold on to a belief, and to me, this is like almost self-hypnosis, right? It's not self-delusional, but it's literally how do we create an outcome that we desire? Not by focusing on our lack and what we don't have, but we literally create like little movies in our mind right? We use our imagination and we imagine what it's like. We visualize a better future. We literally put ourselves in our mind's eye in a better future, and we practice this. We practice seeing things differently. We hold the vision of what's possible, and we put ourselves into the scene in that movie as if we are there right now. And we look around in the movie, and it's like, what am I seeing? What am I feeling? What am I hearing? What am I tasting or touching? We use the five senses. We make it really real, and we practice a vision. And athletes do this all the time. They call it visualization. It's really self-hypnosis, right? It's samesies different, same thing. It's like they're visualizing. They see themselves swinging the bat. They see themselves taking the shot. They see themselves like swinging the golf club, right? They see themselves winning the race, running faster. They see themselves doing it all perfectly and right. They let their nervous system, their mind, their neurons, their physical body have the experience of it already be differently. And we can do this with hope too. When we practice it enough times, that belief that we can positively influence the future, this is how things actually come to be, right? We bring it to life. We practice hopefulness. It's so powerful. And this is what I'm saying. It's like hope is teachable. Hopefulness is learnable. And this is how we keep the darkness out. We keep the darkness out by always noticing the little glimmers of light, of possibility. We train our mind to look for love. And then we take action. Again, we don't just talk about it. We don't just think about it. It's the application of the theory. We do something about it. And we want to start by emulating internally, right? We embody the thing that we wish to be different out there. We emulate internally what we want to experience externally. That's the gig. And then we take action, because hope is taking action on that possibility. So we can transform hope from something that's quote unquote passive to something that's a powerful catalyst for change. Something that actually can shape our world. We're not just sitting around thinking about it, dreaming about it, visualizing about it. We are then taking that practice and we're putting it to good use out in the world. And I think if we can shift our relationship from hope, from like it just being like this, whatever she hopes, yeah, keep hoping. Yeah, keep hoping, and people roll their eyes or whatever. But hope is something to me that has empowered me, right? Hope that, oh my God, this is not going to last forever. In fact, it doesn't matter why, but I was looking at my high school yearbook. That's a whole other story. And underneath my picture, well, it's not even my picture. I think I've told this story before. My picture in the yearbook does not have my name underneath it. That's a whole story for another day. But my quote in the yearbook was, "Nothing lasts forever." And I think a lot of people could take that to mean something really negative. And I would say the only thing that lasts forever. So no thing lasts forever, but you know what lasts forever is love. You know what's eternal? Eternal is our spirit. That's what lasts forever. But I was thinking of it too like this, is like no thing, no suffering, no one way of being, right? Because we are eternal in the human realm. We are eternally changing, right? We are eternally changing. Whether it's our skin, right? Even like, look at me. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be 57 next week. So to me, hope is really powerful, and it helps us to overcome the trials and the tribulations and the traumas of life, and holding on to the fact that we can overcome things. Nothing lasts forever. Gandhi had that beautiful quote where he says, basically, like, I'm totally paraphrasing, but like in times of strife, in times of war, in times of whatever, he says murderers and tyrants have been around forever, and it often seems like they're winning, but in the end, they fall always. In the end, they fall always. Love wins. And he says, remember this, like, remember this, remember this. So with hope, we can find the inner strength. Hope for me gives me the inner strength to endure wicked hard shit. It helps me to find resiliency in the face of devastating circumstances, things I've lived through in my own life. It's helped me to navigate uncertainties in life, and it's also given me the curiosity when I'm hopeful. and I'm shifting my brain out of that fight and flight state, like rather than getting shut down from that, that sympathetic nervous system response of where everything just goes into like learned trauma response. When I stay in that place of possibility and hopefulness and a more light, a more like curious, it allows me to stay curious and to stay into like the part of my brain that can actually do good problem solving. It helps me to have the curiosity and the courage to like find solutions to things, which is a really big deal. You know what I mean? And so I could talk about this. I could talk about this forever. But I want to leave you with a quote from, and I've shared this quote before on the podcast. And hopefully this is helping you to look at hope as a different way too, that it is actually more powerful. It is actually more action oriented. So remember, it's a feeling for me. It's also, I get the 5 here, right? So to me, hope is a feeling, a positive emotion. It's a mindset and an outlook and a thought system that leans towards love. It's a call to action. And it's a practice. Hope is a practice, right? Like the good, the beautiful, and the holy, seeking those things out, finding it. It's also a belief. And our beliefs have the power to shape, right? The stories we tell, what we believe about ourselves. And if we believe that things are hopeful, we are way more likely to have more positive outcomes than if we just sit in the shit. I always say, don't sit in the shitty diaper, right? Go being like, this stinks. Like, yeah, get out of the shitty diaper, right? Like, change your mind. Let's do something about it. Okay. But we also know this little quote is from Guru Singh, and this is for the people who are always like, "Don't get your hopes up too high." Okay, I love this. So let's say that you have a dream, right? You're dreaming a dream. There's this thing that you want to do or want a particular outcome or like whatever, right? And he says, "Walk as if." And he's like, dream your dream, whatever that dream is. He's like, walk as if. And what that means is walk as if it's going to happen. Walk as if, like in your mind, even in your mind, see it is already done, is already happening. He's like, walk as if and fill in the blank, whatever your dream is. He's like, dream your dream and walk as if that dream is already happening, is already coming through. Right. And I always say to people at this point, who would I have to be? This is where you want to get under the under. Who would I have to be? Who's the kind of person that I would have to be in order for that dream, right, to come true? Like, what steps do I need to take? How would I have to think? How would I have to speak? How would I have to hold myself? Right? Who would I have to be? Walk as if. That means embody it as if it is already true. Okay. And he says this, he goes on to say, he says, walk as if and dream your dream. Dream your dream and walk as if whatever that dream is already happening. Because we know what we want and we receive our expectations. So learn to expect the best. And do not follow that old saying, quote, don't get your hopes up or don't get your expectations up. You don't want to be disappointed. He says, if you don't want to be disappointed, don't be. Act in a different way. Walk as if, get your expectations way up there, and you be you and no one else. And then he ends it with, love you. Good job. Thank you. Good job. Walk as if, dream your dream. And I love that. I have taken that so many times when people are like, yeah, but what if it doesn't happen? And it's like, I'm going to be disappointed. And I'm like, well, you can decide to not be disappointed. You can decide that this is not a failure, that it's information, that you learn something new about yourself or the world or this company or this president or this whatever, right? It's like, walk as if, try to do the thing, envision it, live as if it's going to happen. And if the thing doesn't happen, right? Because I always say, like, at some point, I always say you're going to figure out that there's a lesson in this for something. There's something to learn or see here. It's going to be like getting a gift. It's like getting a blessing. I saw a fantastic bumper sticker one time, and it said something like, "Please save me from the things that I want." I'm going to say that again. Please save me. I would say it like this. Please save me from the things that I think I want. Right? So if the expectation or whatever the thing is, you got your hopes way up there, you got your hopes sky high, and then the thing didn't happen. I always hold on to the possibility that it's because something bigger or better or different. You know, I remember when I heard Oprah speak. I got to hear her speak in person and meet her, and it was a magical evening. It was really remarkable. And I have a recording of her talking. And one of the things she said is she says, you know, I had these thoughts, these ideas of like what I wanted. And she says, but God dreams a bigger dream for me than I could dream for myself. So often we limit ourselves. We do not dream big enough. We don't get our hopes up enough, and we keep ourselves in these small little boxes, and we think, well, that's just not possible for a person like me. That's just not possible for X, Y, and Z, however you see yourself, this identity that you've created, right? Beyond being one of God's kids. We slap all these labels on ourselves, and a lot of times we don't allow ourselves to dream big or to think something is possible. We give up. We become hopeless. We tell ourselves, oh, my dreams don't matter, or that doesn't matter, or there's no fixing the world, or we're never going to be united again. We're always going to be divided and da da da. And I just don't, I can't let myself believe that. And it's not that I'm Pollyanna-ish. I just don't, I just think like, no, because I know what can happen. I know that miracles happen. And again, I'm not talking like miracles like walking on water. I'm talking about people choosing to actually listen to each other. People being open to seeing a different point of view, people actually listening to understand. I remain hopeful that we're not always going to be, it's not always going to be, that this country is not going in the direction that I see it going in. I have to remain hopeful that there will be a time when perhaps, and look, it hasn't always been good. And this is the whole thing about, like, again, don't get me started about the whole make America great again. I'm like, great for who? Wasn't always great for Black people, wasn't always great for gay people, wasn't always great for, you know, trans people, wasn't always great for Indigenous folks, wasn't always great for women, wasn't always great for, you know, wasn't always great for a lot of us. How about we have hope for a new vision, a new united and actually United States for America, where we take the words of the Constitution that says all men are created equal under God, right? What if we actually like live that and believe that? What a different experience we'd all be having. And then I couldn't talk about hope. Whatever you feel about Barack Obama, I mean, I was going to say I don't really care. It's not true. I guess I'm always open to listening to people, but I'm a fan. Okay, and I remember back in 2008 when he came to New Hampshire, and I got to hear him speak live. And what a powerful, powerful orator he was. And these are just a couple of quotes because he ran his whole campaign. He ran his whole first campaign on hope. I will never forget it because I remember feeling so fucking hopeful. I was so full of hope. This vision, when I heard him speak in 2004 at the Democratic National Convention in Boston, I wasn't there in person for that one, but I heard it. I think it was like the shot heard around the world, that voice. And how much hope he had and how smart he was. And it was brilliant. And I just wanted to share this with you. So he says this. One of the things he said is hope is not false. You know, people talk about false hope. He's like, here's one thing that I can tell you that hope has never been, and that's false. Okay. And he said this at the New Hampshire primary, in his New Hampshire primary speech, January 8th, 2008. This is what he said. He says, when we have faced down impossible odds, when we've been told we're not ready or that we shouldn't try or that we can't, generations of Americans have responded with a simple creed that sums up the spirit of a people. Yes, we can. And that right there, yes, we can, that is the language of hope. That's me talking now. Right? We have faced impossible odds. We've been told we're not ready, that we shouldn't even try, that we can't. And generations after generations after generations of Americans have responded with a very simple creed that sums up the spirit of a people. And it's yes, we can. And to me, that is hopeful. And I think that we can. And then his beautiful wife, Michelle, I'm going to leave you with these two things. She had said this. In 2011, she says, we may not always have a comfortable life, and you will not always be able to solve all the world's problems all at once. But don't ever underestimate the impact you can have, because history has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own. Hope indeed can take on a life of its own. And I think if we just keep our hopes up, if we hold on to that glimmer of light in our hearts, whew, it can take on a life of its own. And then she also said this in 2017. She says, something that has carried us through every moment. She said, in this White House and in every moment of our lives is the power of hope. The belief that something better is always possible if you're willing to work for it and fight for it. And this is the part of me saying we have to take hope out of this airy fairy kind of just like pie in the sky idea, this Pollyanna-ish, like, oh my goodness. And you get your hands dirty, you get your ass in gear, you get down to business and you fight for it and you work for it. And you train your mind to be looking for the good, the beautiful, and the holy. You trained your mind to be hopeful instead of hopeless and helpless. You reclaim your power back. And for a lot of us right now, hope is like an act of resistance. Hope is like a way of like saying like, no, like I'm not giving up. I will fight for justice. I will speak up on behalf of love. I will be a living example of the world, right? I'm going to embody it, right? I'm going to emulate internally what I hope to see out there. So it starts with us. It starts with us. And then I'll leave you with that famous, Margaret Atwood, her quote from A Handmaid's Tale, right? And she says, don't let the bastards grind you down. Don't let the bastards grind you down. So stay hopeful out there, people. Stay hopeful out there. So that's what I have for you today. I hope it's helpful in some way. I hope you feel reason in your heart to be hopeful. I hope your mind is starting to align. The assignment is alignment, that we align with love. Because so much of what's happening in the world right now is fear. And it is designed to make people feel divided, to feel helpless, to feel hopeless. And one of the acts of resistance, and that's just the other thing, right? To me, hope is a way of kind of just saying like, fuck you to the man. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to take my joy from me. You're not going to take my belief and our power as informed citizens to make a difference in the world. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not giving up. I'm not throwing my hands up. We were made for these times. If you're on the planet right now, you were made for this time. And your being here, there's a reason for it. You matter. You're worthy. You have worth. And it's time that, those of us who are aligned with love, that we get serious about our love, that we get serious about our hope. And we get serious about like training our mind to be looking for the good, the beautiful, and the holy, and then to do something about it. Okay, that's what I got. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, evening, whenever you're listening to this. I appreciate you so much for tuning in, for listening, for watching, however you're taking this in. And if any of this feels like, yeah, you know what, I could use a little bit more of this in my life, please come join us in the Nest. Just go to KarenKenney.com Nest. It's my group spiritual mentoring program. It's a beautiful community of like-minded people who are trying to make a difference in the world, and they start with themselves. That's the whole point. They start with themselves, with their own stories, with their own beliefs, their own subconscious beliefs, and how do we show up in the world as I say, as agents of love. You know what I mean? And if you ever want to work together one-to-one, that is my one-to-one spiritual mentoring program. And that is called The Quest. And again, you can find all this stuff on my website at Karen Kenney, KENNEY.com. Thank you for tuning in. Wherever you go, may you leave yourself and the animals, the other people, the places you go, and the environment better than how you found it. Wherever you go, may you and your energy and your presence and your love and your hope be a blessing. Bye.